The Hell March by the Indian Army on Republic Day is still a sight where the best of the Indian armed forces display their strength. But did India win independence because of the non-violent movement led by Mahatma Gandhi? Or was it the impact of Subhas Chandra Bose's Indian National Army that made the British panic and leave India? A man with unlimited courage, distant vision, a man who felt for the millions of Indians. The only leader who confronted the British in the battlefield. Born into the family of a wealthy lawyer in Bengal, Bose had the best education. Bose enrolled in Cambridge to prepare for the Indian Civil Service examination. 8 months into it, he passed the exam, but refused to serve the British government. Instead, Bose chose to return to India and pursue his vision of throwing the British out of it. Over the next 10 years, Bose was imprisoned many a times, and it's here that his health declined. He was released with the precondition that he would leave India. Bose continued his struggle outside India, uniting people's opinion in favor of India's independence.
Every Indian, no matter where he may be living at the present time, has a duty towards his country, and he must contribute his due share towards the final victory. I am convinced that India cannot hope to be free until all Indians living abroad perform their duty in this momentous world crisis.
It was time to return to his motherland, and Bose returned as the Congress president. It's here that he called out for the need of an army.
Our struggle is no doubt a non-violent struggle. But even a non-violent struggle demands an army, an organization, and a machinery.
He was forced to resign from the Congress and later formed the Forward Bloc. His quest to fulfill the dream of forming the Indian Legion made him travel from Russia to Germany. Highly impressed by the Soviet force and Nazi force, Bose sought help for Indian independence. Subhas Chandra Bose assumed the title of Netaji in Germany. His first task was to engage against British propaganda in India. Bose wanted to reach out to the 2 million Indians in the British Indian Army. In 1941, the first detachment of British Indian prisoners of war arrived. He believed the Indians posted in the British Indian Army were the ultimate instruments of this struggle. He wanted them to form allegiance with the national sentiment. Netaji proposed that the prisoners should join a special legion. Your motherland needs to be freed, he said. This very concept resonated in the minds of the prisoners, and Bose finally had his Indian Legion.
कि आप अगर पूरी इतिहास देखें फ्रीडम मूवमेंट की, तो सुभाष चंद्र बोस ने पूरे फ्रीडम मूवमेंट को एक नए लेवल पे लाके खड़ा कर दिया था.
The greatest icon is सुभाष चंद्र बोस. आज हम उसका स्मरण करेंगे, आज हम उसके जीवन के बारे में जानने की कोशिश करेंगे, क्या हुआ क्या नहीं हुआ. In itself, it will raise our consciousness. In itself, it will raise the national consciousness and get nationalism back.
Looking for newer allies, Bose wanted to make ties with the Japanese. The British garrison in Singapore had thousands of Indian prisoners of war. He wanted to set up an Indian Legion in Southeast Asia as well. For that, he would have to travel from Germany to Japan. Bose took a U-boat submarine and headed for Japan.
और वो सबमरीन चलती है यूरोप से, अफ्रीका के दक्षिण से होते हुए मडागास्कर के सामने आती है. वहां से आती है एक जापानी सबमरीन I-29. और जब वो दोनों सबमरीनें सतह पे उठती है तो तूफान समुद्र में आया हुआ है.
He was to be transferred to a Japanese submarine in mid-sea.
चाणक्य नीति कहती है मेरे दुश्मन का दुश्मन मेरा दोस्त. सीधी बात, दो टूक शब्दों में, आप आजादी चाहते हो या नहीं. अगर आप चाहते हो तो मौका ये है।
Bose addressed the Japanese government on reaching Tokyo, after which he proceeded to Singapore. There he received a hero's welcome. Under his able leadership, he united the Indian Legion to fight the British. He convinced them to fight for their motherland. One of the most unique features of the Indian Army was the Women's Regiment, the Rani of Jhansi Regiment.
I want women also to join the regiment and form a regiment of their own, because they form half the population, and unless they also fight for the freedom of the country, they can't expect to get their rights after freedom. So women also must join.
In 1944, the INA along with the Japanese army went into an offensive. It was a massacre. The topmost generals of INA were put on trial at the Red Fort after the war. This Red Fort trial had a massive propaganda impact in India. The demonstrations in India against the British shook the very foundation of the British government. Indians serving in the British armed forces were inflamed by the Red Fort trials. In February 1946, almost 20,000 sailors of the Royal Indian Navy serving on 78 ships mutinied against the empire. This mutiny was followed by similar rebellions in the Royal Indian Air Force and also in the British Indian Army units in Jabalpur. The British were terrified.
किस बंदे ने फैसला लिया कि भारतवर्ष को आजादी दी जाएगी या नहीं? वो बंदा था एक लॉर्ड क्लेमेंट एटली, और वो 1956 के अंदर भारतवर्ष वापस आया। वो कलकत्ता गए और वो वहां रहे एज गेस्ट जस्टिस पीबी चक्रवर्ती के। जस्टिस चक्रवर्ती ने बोला, then why did you leave in such a tearing hurry? 1945 में युद्ध खत्म हुआ और 47 में आप चले गए साहब। जब क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट ही फेल हो गई तो आपके जाने की वजह मतलब तीन शब्द, सुभाष चंद्र बोस, इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी।
Military intelligence reports in 1946 indicated that the Indian soldiers were inflamed and could not be relied upon to obey their British officers. With only 40,000 British troops in India at that time, the British decided to grant independence to India. But did Bose really die in the plane crash of 1945? On 18th of August 1945, his plane developed an engine problem. According to witnesses, his plane crashed and he died as a result of severe burns.
There is, however, a secret report which says that Nehru received a letter from Bose saying he was in Russia and he wanted to escape to India. गांधी जी ने बार-बार बोला है कि सुभाष जिंदा है। उन्होंने कोई रीज़न नहीं बताया कि क्यों बोल रहे हैं कि सुभाष चंद्र बोस जिंदा है। गांधी जी बहुत महान आत्मा थी, महापुरुष थे। वो क्यों बोल रहे हैं बार-बार कि सुभाष बोस जिंदा है?
The Mukherjee Commission's report further fueled this particular debate and shocked the country.
You are such a beloved leader of the country, the people must know about what happened ultimately. My findings are, so to speak, is partial in the sense that I have only said the earlier findings of his death is not correct, the ashes are not him.
No matter what the reality is, it was the glorious 3 years of Bose's Indian Legion, the Indian National Army, that played the role of a catalyst in giving India her freedom. Decades after his death, Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose still continues to electrify us.
कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तू कौम पे लुटाए जा। कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तू कौम पे लुटाए जा।
A presentation by the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, New Alipur College.